This is Jack, my brother. Why don't I say something? But what can I say? Forgive me? No. I forgive you? No.
He doesn't care.
What then?
Why do I care so much when he doesn't care at all?
Too much.
Not at all. All right, then. This is the last time I'll go crawling to him.
Tomorrow I'll act calmer, I'll be wiser.
Tomorrow, big brother, you'll have to come crawling to me.
This is Talkback. Our drama for this program is called The Brothers. Our guest is Dr. James Armstrong, minister of Broadway Methodist Church, Indianapolis, Indiana. Later, Miss Lisa Sergio and Mr. Merrill Emery will be asking Dr. Armstrong questions raised by our play.
Finish it in the morning.
You know what Pop always said, never put out till the morning.
Yeah, I know.
So you're making a lot of noise over there.
Yeah, well, I'm just about finished.
Fine, finish up and go home then.
Well, good night then.
Good night.
You gonna work much longer?
No, I'm just about through myself.
Well, good night, Harry.
Good night.
Why won't he give me a chance? He knows I want to say it, but he won't give me a chance.
Why doesn't he get it over with?
All right, it was my fault. I was wrong.
He was wrong.
But you know how I am. I lost my temper this morning. All right, is that so terrible?
But maybe...
Why won't he even
maybe
look
I should
at me?
say something.
All
All the other times he...
Why am I always the one that has to?
What could I say? After so many times the words lose their meaning. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I'm sorry.
Is that what you want?
You.
I'm sorry.
Why should I help
If
him?
you won't help me...
I won't help him.
I won't say anything.
I won't say anything.
I won't say anything. Harry?
Yep.
About this morning, I want to apologize.
Yeah, I expected you would.
Sure. I didn't mean to get so sore at you. It's just that, well, you were so smug talking to Coster. Look, I mean, the two of you get under my skin sometimes. Look, I know he's been with us for a long time, but I know something about the business, too.
That's right. Nobody said you didn't.
Sure. I guess I shouldn't have yelled at you like that in front of him. I got a little bit too excited. I guess I'll try not to do it again. Come on, Harry, what do you say? Am I forgiven? Well, Harry, what do you say?
I say forget it.
Yeah, but...
Forget it. Go home and have your...
Oh, but Harry...
Now, look. I'm not mad at you. You're not mad at me. The whole thing is over. Forget it ever came out.
Just like that. I'll forget it. Just like that. Well, you've got some heck of a nerve, big brother.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not the one who started this.
No, you're not the one. You're never the one. Oh, what's the use?
Now, Jack.
What?
Wait a minute. Oh, nothing. Good night. This is Jack, my brother. Why don't I say something? But what can I say? Forgive me? No. I forgive you? No.
He doesn't care.
What then?
Why do I care
Nothing.
so
I
much
don't
when he
know.
doesn't care at all?
I care too much.
Not at all. All right, then. This is the last time I'll go crawling
Maybe
to
tomorrow
him.
I'll act calmer. I'll be wiser.
Tomorrow,
I'll
big
be able
brother,
to
you'll
act as
have
if
to come
nothing
crawling
ever
to me.
happened.
Hello, dear. You're home earlier than I expected.
What?
Well, this afternoon on the phone you said you might be late. Something about talking to Harry.
I didn't talk to Harry.
So I see. Jack, is there anything wrong?
No.
We're having potluck for dinner?
Oh, fine.
There is something wrong. I wish you'd tell me.
No, it's nothing. I work hard. I'm tired, that's all. Where's the paper?
Jack, over there. All right, I'll go set the table. I'll call you when dinner's ready.
Carol?
Yes?
I had a fight with Harry today.
I kind of thought you did.
It was silly. About Costa. I was sorry right away, but when I said so, Harry just shut me up. I think maybe he wanted to stay mad at me.
He's not like that.
You don't know him. There's something about him as if he's always so sure he's the eldest, he's right. It's the way he says things that makes me mad. The way he says them. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Well, Pop had that same way about him. It used to make Harry mad enough, but now, I don't know. I just know that 8 years doesn't make that much difference between us. I'm as smart as he is, and, well, even if I'm not, I deserve some respect, some consideration.
Of course you do.
Well, how would you like it if whenever you tried to talk to somebody, I mean, really talk, they just shut you up?
I wouldn't like it.
Well, I sat around that office all day long feeling rotten, wanting to make up, and he knew it, and he wouldn't lift a finger to help me. Just tell me one thing. Why doesn't it ever occur to him to make up with me sometimes?
I don't know, Jack.
I can't be wrong all the time. It's him. He sets me off. He just riles me up.
What did he do this morning to set you off?
What did he do? I just told you what he did. It was his tone of... But don't you have ears? Don't you listen to anything I say?
Yes, Jack, I do. I listen to everything you say.
Honey, I'm sorry.
Yes, I know. You're always sorry.
Carol. I really am sorry.
Here's your coffee, Harry. It must be something terrific.
What?
That record. It must be terrific. It's played itself 6 times already, and you haven't turned it over.
Well, I guess I just like the first side better than the second side, huh?
Sure you do. What set him off today?
Oh.
Your little brother, that's who. The one who put all those gray hairs in your head. What did he do today?
Oh, just a little thing.
And it won't take long to tell me about it.
Oh, we had a few words in the office.
He had them, I'll bet. You listened.
Oh, it was just a little flare-up. He didn't like something I said to Costa. Jack took it wrong. You know how he is. But afterwards, we didn't patch it up.
Good. It's about time you stopped letting him get away with that.
No, I don't know. I wanted to, but he sulked around the office all day long, and towards closing time he came to me and said he was sorry. And I couldn't answer him. The words got stuck in my throat.
No wonder. Ever since your father died, that boy's walked all over you. Maybe it's time you told him the facts of life. You don't need him in the business. You'd do better without him. Why didn't you tell him to grow up or get out?
Oh, no.
Don't tell me you've never thought of it.
I wouldn't. Pop left the business to both of us.
He's just trouble. You ought to buy him out.
I don't want to buy him out.
What do you want to do then? Well, look at you. Look how tired you are. Do you think he appreciates what you do for him? Ha! He wouldn't last 5 minutes in somebody else's business. A minute after he let go with that big mouth of his, he'd be out in the street.
Oh, no. You don't understand him. Now, he's not a bad partner. He has his faults just like everybody else has faults, but... when Pop was alive, we used to really get along. Now I don't know. I just don't know.
What, honey? What don't you know?
Well, what's happened? Why has everything changed so much?
It's not your fault.
I try to teach him. I try to help him.
You've been like a father to that boy.
He didn't like his father.
Harry.
Yeah, it's true. And now he doesn't like me. It hurts me, Erna. It really hurts. Now, what can I do?
You want my honest opinion? All right, then do nothing. You've done enough already.
Oh, no.
Now, it happens in all families. One brother's better than the other.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
Now, listen to me. And that makes for trouble. He's jealous of you, that's it, pure and simple, and nothing you can do will make it change. You won't change either. You'll keep him in the business with you till the bitter end. So, if you ask me, the only thing you can do is protect yourself. Don't let him hurt you anymore. Close your eyes to him. If you start something, turn away, let it pass, forget it.
Forget it? No, that's not the answer. That's what I said to him this afternoon.
If you said it, that just proves I'm right.
No, it doesn't prove a thing. Except maybe that I'm wrong. Morning. Morning.
Oh dear, I wish we knew what happened the next morning. Do you think, Dr. Armstrong, that pride was really the main obstacle to real forgiveness, to starting things up again?
I think pride almost always is the main object or the main interruption to real forgiveness. But I think pride is usually related to other problems, and here I think we see it linked with authority. Both of these men were rebelling against authorities of one kind or another. In fact, there's this tyranny of authority that runs through the entire story. In the beginning, they rebelled against their father, or at least the younger son did. And now, apparently, the older brother was rebelling against the authority of his wife. The younger brother was rebelling against the authority of the older brother. The younger brother's wife was rebelling against his authority, so you had this vicious cycle. And finally, the farmer kicks the dog and gets it all out of his system. But unfortunately, in each instance, their pride was in conflict with the authority of the person who appeared to be more dominant just above them on this little ladder.
Is there a difference between pride and the actual need to have your intelligence and your ability recognized? I feel the younger brother felt that he had to be recognized. Is there a difference between pride and this need?
Well, I think perhaps we need to define pride at this point. There is an essential element in pride. Every person must love himself on a wholesome basis, and there must be recognition, so that the younger brother was simply desiring that, as did the older brother from time to time, a sense of acceptance, a sense of recognition, appreciation, approval. So these are perfectly legitimate desires until they get out of whack.
You say to people, well, haven't you any pride in yourself or your country or your home or your work? We say this, how does one rather teach people where the line of demarcation comes between this proper sense of pride and self-dignity and the point at which pride becomes one of the 7 deadly sins?
Well, I think that Jesus enunciated as the prime law of life the love of God with all of one's energies and the love of neighbor as one loves himself. Now, it seems to me that here you have the total structure of relationship. We must love beyond the self, the neighbor, beyond the self and neighbor, God. But when all of life's experiences are interpreted simply on the basis of self-interest and self-involvement, and when our loyalties go no further than the self, then I think pride has become a dangerous enemy.
What is the relationship between the ability to receive forgiveness and to give forgiveness?
I think this is an essential point in our discussion. In the Lord's Prayer, we pray, "Forgive us as we forgive." One of the Beatitudes is, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." Or, as J.B. Phillips translates it, "Happy are those who are merciful." I don't know that we are entitled to expect forgiveness, either from God or man, unless we in turn reflect this spirit which seeks to understand and then forgive. And I don't think there can be forgiveness apart from understanding.
There is also, I think, another combination that occurs very effectively in this particular drama, as a matter of fact. Forget and forgive. It seems to me that forgetting is a mechanical process of the mind. To forget, your name and address or the date you have tomorrow morning. This happens to everybody. But it seems to me that it's not necessary to forget in order to have totally forgiven.
I think as a basic law of life, if we wait to forgive until we forget, we'll never forgive. Because experience that is sharply etched in our minds will become a part of us, and there's no way to root it out. We may say flippantly, "I forget, all's forgiven." But if we lop it off the top of our thinking, it will just get down deeper and create new problems for us. We may not be consciously aware of it. Therefore, it will become a festering sore. And this type of resentment is perhaps more dangerous than that which is adequately dealt with, where we can see it and thus understand it, objectify it.
Yes, is it not a re-evaluation of what this particular deed which hurt us, for which we were resentful and for which we then offer forgiveness? Is this not perhaps what we seek?
Yes, this I think is why I used the word understand in the place of forget.
Yes.
Now, the older brother was beginning to do this in his conversation with his wife. He reminded her that the younger man had resented his father and his authority, and had therefore transferred this resentment to him as the older brother or the authority figure. And he was doing this sympathetically. He was beginning to understand. And if he understood why his younger brother blew his top, if he understood what led to all of these emotional explosions, then he could communicate this understanding to his younger brother. They could help themselves see themselves. And out of this comes a quality of forgiveness.
Well, what about turning to the church for help in learning to forgive? Now, these two boys both seem to be more or less in the same category, we might say. And at first, he said the older brother, he didn't like Dad. He resented the things he did. And now I am resenting the things that he is doing to me. Why can't he understand this, and why can't he see this? Now, can we turn to the church for help in teaching us to see these things and to broaden our scope as far as our understandings and misunderstandings with our relatives and our friends are concerned?
It seems to me that at the very heart of the Christian gospel is the concept of forgiveness and the experience of forgiveness. It begins with God. For if there is any proclamation in the New Testament, it is that God is forgiving love. This is his nature. But it's not left as a dangling abstraction out in the sky someplace. This concept becomes incarnate in a man. The Word is made flesh. And so forgiveness is no longer just an idea to play with, or a formulary, or a creed, but it is etched out in human experience, so that you see a man dying on a cross, looking into the eyes of his murderers, saying, "Father, forgive them." And you see later the martyr Stephen being stoned to death, praying, "Father, lay not this sin to their charge." So in each instance, I think we find at the very core of the New Testament a concept of forgiveness that is rooted in the nature of God. Now this is a responsibility of the church to proclaim. And as we realize that ultimate reality is based upon forgiving love, and that it is our responsibility and noblest privilege to reflect the nature of this ultimate reality. Therefore, as we are made conformable to his blessed image, as the apostle said, we will forgive.
Does this not demand of us, however, a very great renunciation of self, which is the first step when Jesus said, as you quoted, "They know not what they do." And Stephen and all the others
Yes.
whom you would quote if there were the time. It is always putting oneself way, way back as being the least important, not only less important than God, obviously, but also less important than the feelings of the person whom you would forgive.
Let me respond in kind of an out-of-the-way roundabout manner. I think too frequently within the church and outside, we draw a line between God and man. We drive a wedge between God and man. And thus we do not see the close interrelationships and all of the implications of the message that we proclaim. Now, in terms of pride, which was related to an earlier question, pride separates man from God as well as man from man. One of the truly great preachers of our country, George Buttrick, has defined sin by saying it is raising a rebel flag against God's creation. Thus, pride becomes the essence of man's estrangement from God as well as man's estrangement from man. Thus, unless we can learn and practice this poverty of spirit that places us in our true perspective, unless we can master the arts of humility, and that's such an inadequate phrase because humility isn't an art and it's not to be mastered, but unless we can truly be humble, we are probably in little position to establish the proper kind of relationship with God or man, and it's all one and the same. The first law of life is love God and man. It's one law. By the same token, there's no concept of forgiveness apart from relationship to God and man. It's all one relationship. And there's no forgiveness when one is separated from the other.
Well, how can our churches today expect to teach forgiveness when we feel that the lack of forgiveness causes us to lose so much communication with our family and our fellow men, when there's so much loss of communication in the church and so much strife and trouble in our churches today?
The church is a glorious and divine institution that is plagued by its humanity. And as long as I'm in the church, and as long as you're in the church is going to have problems. If the three of us are the church, it will have its limitations. For that reason, we must accept the humanity of the church, even as we aspire to its true nobility of character. But let's try to understand. If there is this human limitation in the church, let's understand it and then grow beyond it. If there is tension, friction, power struggle within the church, as there is, let's understand its humanity and then move beyond it.
Is it not a little, in a way, this role of the church in our lives as the role of the school, to which we owe our undivided attention and obedience and respect, so long as we haven't learned, let us say, the 3 R's, which are really a tool, which then becomes part of ourselves. And then it is up to us what we write, how we add, what we read. Is this not also the church's role to give us this, if I may be pardoned the expression, tool, which is the road to God, the creating of this companionship with God of which you speak? And then after that, must we not be on our own to know how to use it, turning to the church when we feel weak as people go back to school for a refresher course? But are we not giving too much importance to the church as an institution, as our only connection with God?
I think very much so, and I think the church fails when it makes itself an end in itself. Norman Cousins, years ago, wrote an essay in the Saturday Review in which he said, if the church has failed, it is because it has not involved itself in the human situation, implying that it sought to perpetuate itself instead of giving itself for others. To the degree, and there are many kinds of religion, many kinds of faith, many kinds of churches, to the degree that a religious faith makes us more dependent, it's undermining us as persons. To the degree that it makes us more independent, helps us to find an emerging selfhood. And this is what you're saying. To that degree, it is functioning as it should. It is not the purpose of the church to make a lot of spiritual babies out of us, but rather to help us to grow to maturity where we can function for ourselves, relying upon the resources of our faith, and yet standing on our own 2 feet, making our own decisions, thinking for ourselves, always aware of the fact that we do this in a universe presided over by a loving God.
Besides, we are born alone and die alone. The church may be present in a person who would be a minister, in a sacrament we might receive, but this moment of dying, if all of us in one way or another have either been close to it or witnessed death, and you feel that you cannot reach that person, either they are strong enough to meet God themselves, and this I don't think we cultivate.
I think that all of us, and the church itself, must realize that the individual is alone and naked in the presence of ultimate situations. And ultimate situations are not only birth and death, but they are the grief, the pain, the anxiety, the fear, the sense of estrangement or aloneness that are a part of every life cycle. I've got a friend in the South who is fond of saying every tub's got to sit on its own bottom. And this is simply a statement of this type of isolated individualism, which is a part of our selfhood.
How do we fight this situation? We noted the older brother's wife, I believe it was, says, let's do nothing now. You have done enough. And
This discussion isn't finished until you have thought through to your satisfaction the questions which Miss Sergio, Mr. Emery, and Dr. Armstrong have been considering. Perhaps you will want to continue to think and talk about the issues which Talkback is raising. Talkback is a public service program presented by this station and the churches of your community. It was produced in cooperation with the National Council of Churches as a contribution of the Methodist Television Ministry.